Today I'm gonna basically explain quickly to you my view on artificial intelligence and emerging technology. I'm gonna be very brief, maximum 10 minutes, and I'm present, a very short definition or what AI is, and then what are the enablers, and then a couple of use cases. Not in the fintech industry as I discussed yesterday, but basically in healthcare, which I believe it's very relevant for today, also in transportation and defense. And then, of course, questions. This is just a very, very brief, let's say, drop in everything that AI and emerging technologies empower. And it's also really one of my key beliefs that innovations, and especially technology innovations, can change people's life and can change the world if used correctly. So let me just get started. If my slides work, okay. So again, explaining how the technology nowadays can shape the future for the better, can also is the basis also to improve entrepreneurship and to develop youth entrepreneurship as well. So having said this, let me just explain quickly what artificial intelligence is, which is it's demonstrated. It's an intelligence demonstrated by the machine, mainly with algorithms that are a sequence of instruction telling a computer what to do. And what artificial intelligence is enabling us to do now in a very, structured, pragmatic, and systematic way is analyzes data, text, and images using algorithms to learn from the patterns among them to make decisions. So before we were used to do it manually, now we have many more data coming from, and all the society and the companies, many more data to understand how people or companies consume products and services coming from, especially mainly the telecom industry, all the millions information about our consumer behavior coming from internet, all the millions and millions of information and data about how we are able to consume. And this is basically enabled by cloud, big data, data analytics, and data mining. This is basically enabling to extract various patterns from our behaviors and also improve constructing specific products or desired action from the consumer. I'm just making a very quick example. So, for example, in the supermarket chains, using the pattern of the eye scan, how a consumer look at the different goods and products, is able to create specific merchandising to really make sure that our consumer eye is captured by specific products versus others by just putting them on the shelf in a different ways. Or also artificial intelligence can help in specific corporate functions, like improving, for example, the marketing targets within the marketing campaigns, making sure, for example, that companies can be more effective in targeting their customers, but also more efficient in their marketing spend. For example, defining the propensity and a proximity of leads. So if we want, for example, in a digital campaign to target, I don't know, small shops or small butchery shops in Jordan, who, of course, needs to have some online presence or some online traces, then it's really possible using some keywords to really understand and categorize the target butcheries or all the butcheries based on images that are in internet and some granular sand, digital sand. So it was, for me, it was really exciting things to learn that I could improve as a marketeer my marketing spend. I could really reach my target better just by having a data processor or a machine analyzing the data. Now, I don't want to be too generic, and I would like to, just present briefly some use cases of application in industries that are a bit, different from the digital or the telecom one that we all think machine learning can support, and artificial intelligence. And then, for example, what I want to show is in healthcare, how, for example, there are some applications to identify patterns in X-rays and scanning and that helps identify disease or even tumors through an app with artificial intelligence. Or using also virtual and augmented reality, which is another, let's say, new emerging innovation. This helps, especially now in COVID timing, to better train practitioners on various simulations for different cases. So, for example, in some European countries, it's used to train medical practitioners. It's used also use it in becoming using university to really ensure that there are reality simulations, even if the doctors cannot, or the doctors to be cannot be, let's say, you cannot be working with the patient as previous to before coronavirus. And then there are also natural language processes text that can gauge the sentiment and the relationship between the symptoms and the illness. So it's those enabling a virtual clinic and a virtual relationship. Is been looking at improving the relationship. Now, I don't want to be too long and too and speak too much about it. There is another interesting application in defense that, again, it's food for thought and is enabled by facial recognition and what we call in IoT connected vehicles. So there are facial and pattern recognition that are able to detect targets and recognizing terrains and battlefield characteristics. Or within the connecting vehicles, there is the opportunity to help communication between different military equipment and armory, orchestrating the whole operating mechanism, which means on one side it improves the visualization of the target, or also the recognizing the characteristic of the potential battlefield terrain, but also on the other side is improving the communications between the different forces. Another, examples of use cases applied to transportation. It's basically what we know: having the driving instruction for driverless cars and vehicles through computer vision, connected vehicles, and neural networks that are grouping similar and common data to build complex concepts to help the vehicles, being a driverless car, so understanding if they're facing obstacles or navigating a route or map. So it's what also has always been, enabling what we call driverless car. So this is basically, those are just some food for thoughts. It doesn't at all wants to be a comprehensive, let's say, view of use cases. I just wanted to stimulate our thoughts about the endless possibility of technology and about how technology can really transform people's life. I don't know if there are any questions on this, or Osnan, if you want us to have a chat about it.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll be looking into the chat side for questions, and one thing that I would like to start conversation with, we have like 12 minutes. When there are tectonic shifts in technology, like the first time internet became commercialized, the first time computer systems were integrated. There are always winners and losers. And do you see that there will be like winners and losers in this new technology shift? Like it's quite a tectonic shift in terms of the availability of new applications through AI. Who do you see, or what do you see as winning from these new technologies and kind of losing ground because of these technologies? Any industries, any sectors? You mentioned a few already, but I'd like to kind of take your general idea of that.
Yeah. First of all, this is only my personal idea, so I might surprise, but I don't see any sector being a loser or a winner, as long as the sector is open to transform the way they operate and to totally pivot their business model. So I believe technology is like, as I said, an horizontal enabler that is impacting the way we consumers consume all the different industries. Has it's transforming every kind of verticals and industry, some more than others. But in my view, the losers are whoever thinks that what was working 40 years ago, 20 years ago, will work also in the future. And the winners are all the entrepreneurs that are able to rethink the way they operate, rethink their value chain, rethink their business model to embrace the future. So of course, everything which is not online or doesn't have, an online dust, it's in my view a loser, just because they cannot use these new opportunities, which are saving time and saving money for the company.
Exactly. So, I mean, I like the generalization, like whoever wants to win can win, but they need to change the way they operate, they think, they function in as a part of an ecosystem. Like almost, and then I really think the point is really spot on with the online world as well. As we have seen after COVID, a lot of the physical businesses that relied only on the goodwill of their patrons and a transaction that could only be made by physical appearance lost a lot of ground because they delayed getting online. They delayed building a business model that they can sustain on the digital world, that they kept being analog. And I think this is going to change drastically as more businesses unfortunately will die if they remain, or if they only remain in the analog world and not refuse to jump into the online world. Like retail is a really important example. I'm sure in Dubai as well as in Turkey and US, the way things operated in retail have not shifted, and everybody was not even jumping into the e-commerce side. But now, when you get locked down for 6 months, what are you going to do as a retail company? So there's nothing left but to go online and use these new adaptive technologies and artificial intelligence. Do you see like other sectors that are going to be impacted more significantly than the others through AI?
I think for me, as said, it's not just this sector, the verticals, but how the company reacted. Because there are, for example, some companies that are allowing their people to work remotely, or also their blue collars to use all the newest supply chain applications, and others who don't. So even within the same sector, what I've seen amazing retailers who are switching their operations, who are also improving the supply chain access, and others who don't. So of course, retailers, it's under the lenses. Well, fintech, it's by definition something that has been, so financial services has been really disrupted, and I believe it's going to be also in the next 5 to 10 years been disrupted a lot. We're also talking, even about having a fiat currency, online central bank digital currency, which I don't want to talk too much about because yesterday I gave a long, passionate speech. Definitely, of course, Tavasandir, everything which is linked to technology, which I consider an enabler, will definitely, needs to change, but also to continuously change and to keep updated. I believe also the consulting industry has been changing a lot.
100%.
Meaning before it was, a consultant traveling to the site, having discussion on site with the clients, meaning also going to see a facility, meaning to go and see a retailer and analyze all the physicals. Now everything has changed. Now everything is, online. We, don't use a lot of Excels. We also analyze a lot of data with artificial intelligence. We provide a lot of, solutions to that. So once the industry change, all the sectors need to adapt. Definitely, of course, I see the potential. So not currently happening, but the potential for the healthcare industry.
Of course.
As I was saying, to revolutionate not just the way healthcare operates towards the patients, but also the way practitioners are trained. I believe also education, it's another industry that is undergoing a huge change, be primary education, be secondary or tertiary education. But also what I see with this changing, also a huge challenge in terms of digital divide. So, for example, let's think about e-learning. We believe maybe out of Istanbul, Dubai, London, or Rome, that it's the next frontier. But let's be very clear that at the moment, even in Europe, okay, let's not go. Even in Europe, there are many villages or many small cities whose children or young practitioners are not able to use the technology, to use virtual reality, to also use as a tool artificial intelligence, because they don't have the basics. And that happens much more. So whilst I see all this opportunity, I see also threats in leaving many people behind, many industries behind. Let's think about the small mom and pop shop or the small retailers, small branch of a big retailers in a place. So I really, my message is really make sure that we are all digital alphabet and that we have the basic infrastructures.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I'm really happy that you touched on that subject, because the role of governments, the role of institutions, the role of development agencies has to be geared towards like bringing all that non-infrastructure enabled businesses into infrastructure enabled businesses. That's okay, but like if there's no infrastructure, if there's no broadband internet, if there are not enough incentives to get online, get the devices. I mean, there are more smartphones than people on the planet, but not many of them internet connected. So that's something that people are missing out. I mean, a lot of people in developing economies, and not just developing economies, there are diverse cities in US that are not able to, there are cities in US that are not even as remotely connected as Istanbul or Izmir or other places. Like being in a American or being in London, being in Dubai, being in a developed economy does not mean everybody is equally developed. And I think that people are really missing out that piece. It's not like, oh, the Africans don't have as like the common economic thing, but like there are more connected places in Africa than some parts of US. Like people kind of think, how can US countries like in Midwest or some other places do not have a lot of the healthcare provided in Dubai or in Middle East or in North Africa? So it's not a matter of countries being developed or not. It's a matter of how countries made sure everybody in the country has basic infrastructure. And without the infrastructure, there's no point in building anything to make the world an equal place.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And so from what I also want to say is that I believe, of course, let me speak for development institutions. There are a lot of initiatives to really help bridge this gap and also to support the youth entrepreneurship, because at the end of the day, are the youth that needs to lead this new revolution. So, for example, one of the initiatives I'm aware is what is called Gen U, Generation Unlimited, which is really to support all the new technologies to be adopted by the young people, also supporting them to come up with theirs. So I totally agree with you, Ozan. I couldn't agree more.
So one thing maybe we could briefly touch upon is like, is the digital divide even have a gender divide?
Okay, this is a very interesting and very, dear subject to me. So fact says yes. And it's mainly, okay, there is a digital divide based on social norms. And of course, let's say physical location. So physical location is both man and woman. So norms means in the developing economy, in some development economy, it is not the role for the woman to control internet. The role for the woman is to care about child care and parents. But also in developed markets, there is this digital divide due to familiar